Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of the Wrestling Underground podcast. It's a different day. It's the same douchebags giving you nonsense in your ear holes. I am the head douchebag himself, Chad Porto. Joining me, as always, is the glorious one himself, Marcus Green. Marcus, how the hell are you?
Yes, Lieutenant Douche is in the building.
Lieutenant Douche. Lieutenant Douche, you grew legs! That's even more
Don't
terrifying when you realize what a douche actually is.
don't like her. She tasted like cigarettes.
Speaking of things not to like, Marcus, we're here talking about WWE's slow decline. So, if you haven't heard by now, the folks over at Netflix are probably experiencing a little bit of buyer's remorse. We'll see. After, what is it, just 2 weeks on the air, they've already lost about half their audience. Now, that's not unexpected. I want to be very clear. That's not a bad thing because that's usually what happens. Why this is a bad thing, and we're going to hop right into it, and then we're going to talk about this iconic tweet from one of the biggest, what are they called? Plants in the history of wrestling. The reason why it's a bad thing for WWE to lose half their audience in the span of 2 weeks, as opposed to anyone else, Raw is getting about 3 million viewers. That's not great when you consider that 20 years ago on USA Network, Raw was getting about 3 million viewers. But USA Network in 2005 did not have the same global reach that Raw does with Netflix. Now, I don't know if the 3 million is just American viewers, if it's international viewers combined, but considering people like Paul Heyman say that WWE is driving pop culture, it's not. You would expect more than, let's do a little math. Marcus, you want to do a little math with me? There's about, what, 7.5 billion people?
Yep.
About 3 million tune in a week for Raw. I did that the wrong way. I know how to do math. So you're looking at less than 0.0004% of the globe is watching Raw. Not even a whole percent. Less than 400 of a thousandth. Right? 100,000, 100,000s, millionths? Yeah, 100,000s. That sounds about right. Tens of thousands? I don't know. You're looking at 3 zeros and a 4 behind a decimal point. That's the percentage. We're not even at 5/100ths of a percentage. If it was 10 million people, okay. 20 million people, hell yeah. 3. Same audience it was getting on USA Network, right? Let's see. Last Raw on USA TV rating. Let's find out. On Raw, apparently it was getting 1.596 million viewers. But as we've already talked about before, countless times before, most people stream Raw by hook or by crook. I've not watched Raw on television in years. I watch it on the stream when I watch it, which granted isn't as often as it should be considering I host a show about wrestling. So 3 million isn't impressive, especially when Netflix today has a wider, broader reach than USA Network did 20 years ago. The ratings may be up from where it was on USA Network just recently, but in totality, the ratings are still bad. Like, they're not great. They're middling. They're far from where they were 25 years ago. And I'm supposed to believe that, we're getting this, what is it, $7 billion deal with Netflix or whatever it is over the next whatever it is, 7 years, 6 years, 5 years, whatever it is. It's a poor investment right now, but by all accounts. And it's coupled with the fact that the booking is bad. This is not like a long, hard to figure out perception issue. WWE's booking is bad. It's getting panned. The tickets may be hot right now, but that only lasts so long. Everyone's gonna fall. AEW fell. TNA's had an all-time high, or at least a 15-year high. They'll fall. 13-year high. When was lockdown? Lockdown 2013? 12-year high. They're on a 12-year high right now. Their numbers will patter out eventually, and then hopefully the next ebb comes along and they'll be higher than they were now. This is it's like weightlifting. You'll as long as you're putting in the work, you'll have peaks. You'll hit new heights, but then you're gonna have valleys. You're gonna plateau. You're gonna have some days where you don't feel as strong. You're gonna have some days where you feel stronger. Some days you're just not making any improvements. If you're building a business, if you're trying to gain audience support, that's kind of what happens. Sometimes you're going to plateau, sometimes you're going to dip a little bit, but if you're consistent and you keep putting out a good product, you will hit new heights. WWE's in the middle of a boom period. Yet since WrestleMania, what have we seen? The big rematch, The Rock versus Cody Rhodes, seems to be out the window. And they killed it by having The Rock and Cody share some of The Rock's tequila, if I remember correctly. Like, oh, cool.
Yeah.
Way to ruin like 2 years of build up.
Showed up to his movie premiere, shared tequila. Rock shouted him out at a show. While he was there, either they changed direction of the Rock. Yeah, they changed direction of Rock's long plan, at which I don't. It's hard to take into account because his schedule is so crazy.
No, I don't even think it's because the schedule was so crazy that they made the shift. I think they made the shift because The Rock wanted to be seen as a good guy again.
Gotcha.
I think this was ego driven because, like, let's just say he couldn't do WrestleMania.
Yeah.
You could at least keep peppering it. Like, you could show up for a random Raw and just let Cody know, Cody, I'm not going to be there at WrestleMania 41. But that's the thing about The Rock. You never know what you're going to get. Or whatever. Like, make up some stupid fucking line. I don't give a shit. But, like, you could do SummerSlam. You could do Survivor Series. You could do, one night in Texas. You could do one night in Alexis, Texas. I don't care when you do the blow-off. You could do a blow-off with Cody and Rock whenever you want, because when you build up to that match, regardless if it's on WrestleMania, Backlash, Raw, Sunday Night Heat, or Saturday Morning Slam, will be the biggest match of the month. Period. But you didn't do that because Rock's ego. But I wish it was just that one feud. Like, Liv Morgan and Rhea Ripley are still fucking feuding to some extent. Damian Priest is still somehow around the title. Jey Uso. People with the Jey Uso of it all.
Well, they'd have moved Damian to SmackDown.
Finally, even with the Jey Uso and the eating and the terrible booking by Gunther. Oh, my goodness. Yeah. And considering Triple H's proximity to people like Donald Trump, you would think he'd be on board with a giant white Austrian kicking the shit out of everyone who isn't white. Apparently, not so much.
And ironically enough, and going back to what you were saying about The Rock, the irony is if his ego is stopping, his ego could potentially be stopping the match, but it's his ego that got the title on him in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
On Cody in the first place. I know people want to say that was, I don't know why people still trying to hang on to that. It was a long play all along. But whatever. Delusions are granted. But to your point about the booking and the play on the tie with Trump, the crazy part is they're peppering or trying to deflect from how mediocre the booking is by peppering in all these hip hop people and all these celebrities.
Dave Meltzer really told on himself on that one.
Yeah, I didn't even hear it, but I'm not surprised. He's had a poor showing in the last however many years.
So, without saying it, it really sounded like Dave Meltzer did the whole hard R. He didn't say the word. I want to be clear. He didn't say the word. But he's like, wow, all these rappers.
I have to say the show was very colored. It was very colored.
There's a lot of people front row. Who didn't look like me? Who liked to rap?
Like
And I like
I,
that.
I like it. I like the hip hop I do. It's very good. It's very great. Not my particular cup of tea, but it was all over the show.
My favorite,
Yeah.
greatest of all time, Macklemore. That's what it sounded
Yeah.
like, though. Dave
Yeah.
Meltzer didn't refer to anyone in any racially derogatory way, but the way he was
Yeah.
like, and he just kept seeing these rappers around ringside. I'm like, Dave, do you want to say rappers, or do you want to say the word that rappers
Yeah.
usually use? Because it sounds like you want to say the word that rappers usually use. Like,
I'm like, they do that in that other company you love to talk about so much as well, but it's fine. You probably don't, they doing all the right stuff. Um, but yeah, it's interesting. But going back real quick, 'cause I did want to ask you about this while you was on the subject, because you tend to have all this stuff kind of mathematically broken down in your head. How much, in terms of the transition to Netflix, or the grace period for people, kind of, I guess, the acclimation of Netflix, how much of the down drop do you think is people acclimating from going, being so long, watching it on TV or having it be scheduled programming for them at the house to now having it streamed? And the second part is, do you think Netflix in general waited too long to do live content? Period.
so I think what you're seeing now with the transition, I think what you're seeing is about the same. I think the number of people that were watching Raw before Netflix are still watching Raw. I think they had a nice bump the first week because it was new and it probably caught a few people by surprise and they checked it out. Now, they maybe kept 20, 40,000 people from that first night who hadn't been watching Raw who are now watching Raw. But the idea that they've increased their total viewership because of Netflix is a lie. WWE does not draw people in like they're Taylor Swift. They establish a core fandom, and this is the thing that kind of makes me chuckle all the time. Well, you got to really cater to the mainstream fans of the WWE. No, the WWE is made up of WWE fans. There's no such thing as a mainstream pro wrestling fan. You're either a pro wrestling fan or you're not. And when it comes to like Raw on Netflix, what you're seeing is I think the totality of wrestling fans who are into the WWE watching WWE now more casually, not casually, a lot more easily on Netflix than they were before because you had to have cable or you had to find someone who was broadcasting it or you had to have a subscription or you were watching it second day or third day, whatever it is, on Peacock. So I think now what you're seeing is just a concentration of all the fans that were still there, come the end of December. I don't think you've seen enough tick. As far as live stream content with Netflix, I don't think now is too late
Yeah.
if their prices were the same. I think now it's too late because people are going to start canceling en masse because they keep raising prices.
Yeah.
This kind of seems like it's out of nowhere, but I do cover this industry. I cover streaming. It's part of my day job. I'm a writer. I cover things like subscriptions, price gouging, all sorts of things as it boils down to digital streaming platforms. And the one thing that I've noticed that you could have 60, 80, 90 million people subscribe to your platform and still lose money.
Yeah.
Netflix is in the hole. Disney
Hmm.
Plus, I think, only just turned a profit.
Yeah. That's what we're
Paramount
saying.
Plus is struggling so badly, it's looking to Max, who is also not doing great, and possibly I think Discovery, and forming a conglomeration between the three of them,
Yeah, that's why they've been bundling for a while now.
right?
Yeah.
So it's hard to say if if what we're seeing is going to be good for WWE in the long term, but they had to make this pivot. Because eventually cable will dry up. Whatever avenues you still have on cable will dry up. Even if, even if at the end of the day, you still have the NBA, the NHL, the NFL, what have you, they're going to leave too because they can get more money elsewhere. And then cable will dry up. You'll probably have some form of terrestrial television left over, but for the most part, everything will be available online. So WWE was smart to do this, but I don't think their move is going to be the huge boon so many people thought it would be.
Gotcha.
Mostly because if you look, it's bad. It's really fucking bad. Saturday night's main event. It's only been back what 2 months,
Yeah.
and it's
Very
fucking
mid.
terrible.
Yeah.
Like a 12-minute Cody Rhodes Kevin Owens match. They're gonna fight at Royal Rumble. Gunther took on Finn Balor and Damian Priest in a triple threat match at the last one. At the most recent one, Jey Uso took on Gunther in the main event, and it was fucking terrible. You know, Shawn Michaels super kicked Kevin Owens, and you had people like, "What? I don't understand it. Why is it such a big deal that Shawn Michaels super kicked Kevin Owens? Shawn Michaels is 60. The man doesn't need to do anything to ride a horse. He just walks over and sits down because his legs are already fucking bowed.
It gives away the match result.
His eye is so crooked, you can unscrew bottle caps just by putting it near his face. The dude is a grandfather. I don't know if that's true. But he's old enough to be a grandfather. And he laid out the top heel with a super kick. Sorry,
the sexy bull is in narrative only. Yeah, him super kicking Kevin Owens should have like low blow Cody Rhodes and I mean pop a power bomb Sean through that table because he needs to look strong going into that because we know that there's no way they're gonna drop the title off Cody when he reaches 300 days. I think as champion at the Rumble.
I think an even bigger issue with it's not even just booking. But you're right. They made Kevin
Yeah,
Owens look like a bitch.
yeah.
I'm sorry if a 6-year-old put his hands on me, I'm putting a broken hip on him. Like, come on. But Kevin Owens is 40, got bad knees, and has already hit whatever peak he's gonna hit. Putting the belt on him won't do you any good. The goal of wrestling is to have big matches. And if you don't build to big matches, then the fuck you doing? Kevin Owens is a mid-carder. I know this is going to piss some people off. Kevin Owens is a very mediocre wrestler. He is just shot to shit. Like he is. If you watched Kevin Owens in, what was it, 2009, 2010 Ring of Honor, and you watch him now, he's washed. He's still good compared to some of the guys on that roster, like Jey Uso. But like he's not good compared to what he was. He's 40, and he's put his body through hell. He's been, incredibly out of shape for a lot of years, which will put a strain and pressure on your joints, breaking them down faster. And then you had him do a bunch of dumb shit for like 15 years between Ring of Honor, NXT, and WWE. And now you're like, oh no, put the belt on. Why? Why put the belt on him? Is he the biggest name Cody Rhodes can face in a match? No. Then don't put the fucking belt on him. Who's the biggest name Cody Rhodes can face in a match? It's CM Punk. Not Roman Reigns. CM Punk. You
A
put
segment two of
Cody
that.
versus CM Punk at WrestleMania, it'll sell. Biggest match you can do. And it should be the main event of WrestleMania. I
So
don't know
you'd
if they
have
do it.
Punk win a Rumble.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hmm.
Unless he blows out a quad.
Yeah, which we pray like maybe we'll get lucky and they'll make him 30 in there.
I say you make him 30. You put him on the announce table. Like, literally, just have him sit down. Like, I don't even want him to sit crisscross applesauce. Like, no. You have him sit down. Maybe you have, like, Rockstar Spin run out and put, like, bubble wrap around him. And then you
Oh yeah.
hire, like, Carl Anderson and Doc Gallows, because they're not going to be in the Rumble, because the fact of that noise, to have them come
Uh,
down and throw them out and throw everyone out of the ring, and then have CM Punk just stroll in without ever having to do anything. And then you bubble wrap his ass until WrestleMania 41, where he faces off with Cody Rhodes. And maybe you have him turn heel. Maybe you don't. Maybe you have Cody turn heel. Maybe you don't. I don't know. But that's the biggest match you can do. People will tune in for that because as we saw with the ratings with AEW the minute he left, CM Punk's a draw. Cody Rhodes is
yeah,
your top babyface. Fucking put them together and make magic. It's simple.
with the way they'll book it, they'll make him number one, have him go the hour, and then put Reigns at 30.
Oh God, don't even. But this takes us to this iconic quote from November 30th of 2024, WrestleVotes. I think they're an industry plant. I think this is ran by a WWE employee. I wouldn't be surprised if it's
Mm,
Triple H himself or Stephanie. They tweeted this out on Survivor Series. Now, keep in mind, every major show and a lot of TV shows that WWE has produced since the end of November have been subpar, uninteresting, even bad. Here's what they said. Tonight marked the unofficial start of the most important and unpredictable stretch in WWE history. Over the next 140 days, the return of Saturday Night's Main Event, Raw's Netflix debut, the second Saturday Night's Main Event on NBC, a dome-sized show Royal Rumble, the Chamber at Skydome, and both nights of WrestleMania. So if Survivor Series felt somewhat underwhelming to you, it was likely by design. Both Saturday main events, subpar. I forget what the December show was, subpar. Royal Rumble, not looking great. I love the Motor City Machine Guns, but they've already been nerfed so hard since debuting in, what was it, November? October? I don't remember now. But they've already been nerfed so hard, whatever luster and intrigue they have, gone. They lost the DIY. Now, I know they're building up to some DIY Motor City Machine Guns. That was the best out of 2-3 falls.
Yeah.
That's cool. Johnny Gargano is kind of a tool, and Tommaso Ciampa is like 106. Like whatever magic they had on NXT was about 9 years ago.
Yeah.
We can be done with them. Like they don't have great promos. They've been outpaced by other wrestlers. They're only around because Triple H likes them.
Yeah, speaking of Triple H, how much of the mid-tieredness, or to your point, just crap that it has been Saturday Night's Main Event, how much of that also hurt by the full-match concept?
On its own, not much, and this is going to be the next pivot we make. Saturday Night's Main Event is an outdated concept that shouldn't have been brought back. So the reason why Saturday Night's Main Event worked originally was because a lot of what was going on in the world of pro wrestling in the 80s when Saturday Night's Main Event happened. The reason why it was so successful is because most television at the time for pro wrestling was syndicated. Saturday Night's Main Event, while also taped, was in a prime time slot on Saturday night when Saturday night TV was pretty in demand. So it was seen as a bigger deal because it wasn't, a pay-per-view, which were only 3 or 4 a year at that point. And it wasn't the same, Andre the Giant fights Steve the Plumber kind of content. You're seeing, because at the time, a main event on WWE Superstars or WWF Superstars would be like Macho Man Randy Savage versus Tom Zink. You weren't getting major matches on Raw. Like the idea of seeing Seth Rollins versus CM Punk headline a Raw is probably a bigger match in its own than anything we ever saw on Saturday Night's Main Event. You cannot have 12, 13 major pay-per-views, PLEs, whatever you want to call them, a year, and then have main events on Raw and SmackDown that feature your top stars, and then also do a Saturday Night's Main Event, because what's the point? We see all this type of action on every other show. TNA could do a Saturday Night's Main Event. They don't have so many prime A-list shows that they couldn't get away with a live special. Now, the thing is, TNA does do Saturday Night Main Events. Anytime they do an Impact Plus event or TNA Plus event, that's their version of Saturday Night's Main Event. They're still able to split the difference. WWE has so many major matches on TV and so many major events on their streaming services that for them to do Saturday Night's Main Event seems redundant. Like, why not just put this on Raw? Why make me watch yet another 2 hours of wrestling on a different network? It would work better if you cut back on the number of major events you have, or if you cut down on the number of major matches on Raw. If you didn't do CM Punk versus Seth Rollins ever on television and you saved it for Saturday's Main Event, it would mean more. But, you're putting you're putting Jey Uso versus Gunther. Chelsea Green won a middling U.S. title that hasn't been done anything with since she won it. Yeah, it's kind of, proof positive that Saturday Night's Main Event just doesn't have any merit anymore. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't work. So unless you put something on there that is truly worthwhile, something you don't normally see, say like if you did a one-night cruiserweight tournament, or if you did, Cody versus Gunther in a non-title match,
or if you did like a Survivor Series match featuring, your 5 biggest stars from Raw and your 5 biggest stars from SmackDown. Maybe those things could get people intrigued, but a world title match between a mid-card Jey Uso and a losing Steen Gunther just isn't going to draw fans. And I don't think it did. I think the ratings weren't that impressive for the show. So, I don't know. I'm looking at this Royal Rumble card and I'm thinking to myself,
But
more of the
Chad,
same.
he's so popular. How could Jey Uso be mid-tier when he's so popular?
I don't know, man. There's a lot of ways I can break that.
Dissect that, yeah. I know. It's one of them. It's one of them things. Is there? Because I know you talked for years about bringing back certain stage sets themed anyway. Because I know that's a big thing for both of us. Would you scratch Saturday Night's main event concept in general? Is there anything that you would bring back with this new era that they're in?
The stocks. Book bad match to get thrown in the stocks. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe instead of doing. I think Saturday's main event could work, right? I think it could work. But you have to do different things. I think bringing back the Cruiserweight title and having it defended, across Saturday night main event would be awesome. Do like a Battle of the Brands or King of the Ring. Those could work for Saturday night's main event. You have to put something interesting, unique, and special on these types of shows to make people want to tune in. I think if you did something like that, it might just work. So, real quickly, Royal Rumble this Saturday, Sunday. I don't know. I don't care. We have the men's champion, the men's Royal Rumble, the women's Royal Rumble. Cody versus Kevin Owens in a ladder match. Great. And DIY versus Motor City Machine Guns. The Royal Rumble has been so bad the last few years. I don't care. It's a dead concept. Part of the reason it's a dead concept is going to sound pretty not so great, but it feels less than impressive because we have 2 of them. You have a men's and a women's Royal Rumble, and then people are like, but it doesn't, it's not good anymore. Well, yeah, because it's oversaturated. I don't know why no one else is saying that. It's oversaturated. We have too many Royal Rumble matches in a year. And you put them on the same night, that's even more stupid. It's the same reason Elimination Chamber no longer has any emphasis. Same reason why Hell in a Cell's a dead concept. Royal Rumble's going the same way. WrestleMania, man.
Is the Rumble also marred by Elimination Chamber basically being like, oh well, I didn't get the Rumble, yeah, I just won the Chamber.
Yeah, and it is. It really is. I've always thought that dating back to 2005, when both Cena and Batista both accidentally fell out of the ring at the same time, and everyone thought it was staged because of how perfect it looked, you should have always had the winner gets the pick, which title, the loser gets the title that isn't claimed. I think that's the best way to do it going forward, but none of that matters when you have both a men's and a women's. My idea was to actively flip each year who gets the Royal Rumble if you're so insistent on the men and the women doing the exact same thing. Here's the problem, though. The women's Royal Rumble, to me, feels like the WNBA. It feels like women pretending – I shouldn't say pretending. It feels like women trying to compete with the men in the same type of events that men excel in. Most people, if they're being honest with you, if you were to put the best WNBA team against the best NBA team, no one's going to lie to you and tell you, oh, yeah, no, it's going to be a fair contest. No, the men are going to win by 70. They're bigger, faster, stronger. They're more athletic, and they can move faster with the ball in their hands than a woman could. It's not sexist. It's biology. So when you have people like John Morrison and Kofi Kingston and all these, like Ricochet, doing all these psychotic things in the Rumble, right? Paul London, who I'm pretty sure still hasn't landed after that Snitsky clothesline. Nunzio, who was speared by Goldberg 21 years ago and still just is only getting up from it. When you have all these major spots historically, and then you tell the women to go do the exact same thing as the men, they're fighting an uphill battle that they can't win. Because on top of trying to live up to what the men do, you then have to prove to the women who, for some reason, female fans are harder on women than anything. I think if you're a woman, that's not going to surprise you. Women are the hardest people to impress if you're a woman. I don't know why that is, but then again, dudes are the hardest to impress if you're a dude, so I guess I kind of get it. But you also have to then deal with, the current, ecosphere surrounding people where everything's, DEI and bad women and bad minorities and bad trans, and you're just sitting there going, what? So you have to now deal with people who doubt you for critical reasons, people who doubt you for sexist reasons, and people who doubt you because they're just bad people. And then you're asked to, to go out there and give the best performance you can when, for the most part, no one really cares after the fact. I can't name you one good women's Royal Rumble match. And that isn't necessarily because they've had bad women's Royal Rumble matches, right? It's because the men's Royal Rumble always shows up and challenges them. I can't tell you any major moments from the women's Rumble matches over the last few years. I can tell you a few of the men's, but even the men's have lost a lot of luster because you're trying to keep track of 60 entrances, 60 moments, 60 people, all competing for the same idea. It's a watered down concept that no longer has the same emphasis, but people still like to latch on to the idea that it does. But then they're like, oh, that was disappointing. Yeah, no shit, it's disappointing. You got too much of it. This isn't a new concept. One of the biggest issues with AEW is that they try to do the whole big signing, big mystery, big surprise way too often. And he got, like, by the time Bobby Lashley showed up like a month ago, I'm like, cool.
Yeah, it's too much impact, and then it burns out just as quick. It's the same thing happened with. I mean, they got the titles now. They're supposed to. They hot shot a few between Swerve and Bobby. That didn't go nowhere. Look what's happened to Deanna. Of course, we kind of call that not worked out for Taya. Um, yeah, it's just not good for these new debutees. I mean, like I said, they probably Mercedes is getting a Brock treatment where they're literally paying her too much to not have her in about 10 or 12 segments. Um, but other than that, yeah, it's just a lot of money that's being doled out uh, over there. When it comes to the Rumbles, I think the women's Rumble's been ironically enough more must see than the men's the last however many years. But you know,
I don't think
that like you said, the
either.
men's.
Sorry.
Yeah, I mean the men's just been kind of pedantic, like you saying, trying to keep track. The reason why the women stand out more to me, you kind of remember standout moments like Mickey coming down with the title, and then Jordan after that, and then obviously Jade debuts or whatnot. But like you said, still, it's it's kind of just a minutia going through both of them. Going back to your idea, how would you determine if you did you were booking it, you did the flip flop back and forth every year? It's either the men's or the women's. How would you just rotate it like this year's the men, next year's the women, so on and so forth? Or would you have like a tournament or something? However, if the men or women perform better, that's who gets the rumble.
Honestly, one of the things that perturbs me the most with this company is the idea of sameness.
Mm.
You have a men's and a women's U.S. title and Intercontinental title. You have a men and women world title, men and women world tag team. There's no uniqueness in either division now. What I would do is create a new concept. I don't know what that concept would be, but I would make a concept that would cater and highlight the women in a way that puts them over, gets them over, but it also gives them a concept and an idea that they can own. Maybe get rid of the February pay-per-view and instill this concept as their thing. Maybe it's as simple as the Queen of the Ring, but you wouldn't even call it the Queen of the Ring because that's again you're just borrowing an idea from the men. Maybe you do like an Ultimate Survivor concept where it's like an old Survivor Series idea. It's an abandoned concept, so why not? You get like 5 teams or 10 teams of 5 or probably 8 teams of 5. You have them compete throughout the night in a single elimination tournament, but the catch is that if you get pinned in match 1, you're done. But then the final team would then go to the main event where they would have to compete against one another. So it behooves you to both keep your team intact so you can get through the tournament better, but also behooves you to let people get eliminated so you don't have to deal with them in the main event. It creates layers to the story, and it gives the women their own entire thing that gets to be theirs. Instead of just being, oh, here's different or same but different. I don't think that concept works in wrestling. I think you need to have titles that mean something to each group of people that don't just feel like you're copy pasting. Like, here's the men's, here's the women. The Divas title wasn't great. But the old WWE women's title at least had a unique look that you knew was theirs, and it works. The Knockouts title is not a carbon copy of the men's title. In fact, the best version of it, for both, were created in '07. One was a black belt with a kind of like a, what I like to call the sleeked, modernized eagle, and the other one was a white crown almost, like a chess piece. And they both looked awesome. And they both had their own unique style and taste to it. So like you felt that each division was represented accurately in a way that was unique in their own. When you do this, everything's the same shit. It's great for brand synergy, but there's no uniqueness. And it's one of the reasons why, certain people in, combat sports don't like certain weight classes, because at a certain point, same looking belt, less impressive fights. And I feel like what you need to do with this concept is find a way to uniquely do the women in a way that makes them stand out, instead of just having them be carbon copy everything the men do. Because I don't think separate but equal is a concept that works. Let them stand out on their own, doing their own thing. In fact, I wouldn't even be opposed to, instead of doing a Raw and SmackDown with, the women's team on Raw and the women's on SmackDown, just put all the men on Raw and put all the women on SmackDown. I think that's a better idea than half of what we're getting now. And at least then you could have, a female-heavy show where you get more women on the roster, more airtime. So
You're not wrong. And maybe the concept could have been back, had it not been, like you said, bastardized all hell now. Like the men get the Rumble and then the women get the Chamber or something to that effect.
yeah,
But yeah, like you
you could
said,
do that, but like I would make it permanent. Like whatever you want to do, but just make it permanent.
yeah. So that'll really come. But now that, like you said, talking about the belts for a second, and the damn mid titles look better than the main titles. At least it feels like a uniqueness to them, aesthetically anyway.
Yeah, you're not wrong. Let's talk briefly about the live edition of Impact. I thought it was pretty good. I don't get this partnership with NXT. Cora Jade, I don't even really. But we got a lot of great moments. Matt Cardona's back in TNA. Steph Delander's back in TNA. I know you're a big fan of Mustafa Ali. He's back in TNA. Apparently, he signed a
Yeah,
contract. I've heard of
that was
everything from
cool.
a year to 2 years, though nothing's been
Yeah,
confirmed.
it's just good to see. And by the way, how great was that pivot that they did with the lander?
That was so good. Her winning it in the divorce, that was funny. Oh, I like Delander. She has so much
That
charisma.
that's such a chicken soup out of chicken shit situation.
It really was. Um, the six women's tag match was fine. I really think Heather by Elegance has a lot to offer, but I think she got stuck with the wrong wrestler in Ash.
Mm.
I think Dana Brooke she shouldn't be a focal point of the division. I think Heather Reckless would have been better put with somebody else, especially with the fact that she kind of had a like a punk vibe, and then they kind of just didn't do anything with that, and they kind of just morphed her into something else entirely. By the by, I do love that Rosemary is now wearing Raven's old T-shirt design. That was cool, especially with the way that she incorporated his match concept for the last event. What was it?
Just linking them up in general, I think was a great pivot, and it's just cool to see her back on her own
Mm-hmm.
and referencing everything that she's gone through, and the fact that even he called out the fact that she hadn't been, the Knockouts champion in a very long time, and can she get it done? And just her still referencing the demons and the realms and all that stuff. She's one of the most consistent things that company's had in the last decade. But yeah, I mean, I'm just looking at because Obviously, we know one of their major women is officially gone now in Grace. If you're ranking potentialities for where they go next in terms of building people up in the knockouts, you talked about Evans and what you do with her. We're seeing the rise of, I forget her name, the young Asian that they got from NXT.
Xiling or
Um,
something like that.
yes, G Lane.
Xiling or something.
Yeah, yeah, thank you, because I didn't want to just say the Asian, but Xia Lane, Savannah Evans, and if you booking it, those two with Heather Reckless, what do you do? How do you rank them in terms of importance? Because they wanted to potentially push Savannah Evans like a monster, but they've kind of she's lost to Xia Lane.
So right now, there isn't like a great through line. I think
Yeah,
you keep putting them out there, keep coming up with some ideas to get them over. Sadly, the one that I think would make the most sense to pivot the belt to is the one you can't, and that's Steph DeLander. Her neck is still fucked up. Like she's not gonna wrestle for a good 7 to 10 months. I don't think she's the greatest wrestler in the world either, but she's such a force as a character. I feel like you could easily do like a hardcore match where she beats Masha Slamovich by hook or by crook, and then you can, go from there. Um, I don't think they have their face yet to face off with Masha or their heel. I think ideally it'd be Killer Kelly, but she's been on leave because she's pregnant, and then I don't know how long it's going to take for her to bounce back. I don't know if she's already
yeah,
given birth or if she's still waiting to give birth, but like she could be gone for another 6 or 7 months. So I don't know if the answer is there yet. I think what you may have to do is look into some outside forces, maybe get a high end, I think is her name. She's making a lot of waves on the
yeah,
indies right now. Maybe, Alley Catch would have been another one, but she just broke her leg. So, like,
yeah. So tests don't factor in your plans at all for what you would
she
do for
could
the.
if you're desperate, and I think that's why they signed her because they're desperate. I think you can build up Tamash versus Tessa at Slammiversary, but as far as the
Yeah,
next star down the line, I don't know if that one is clear yet. Though it can be in time. I'm not saying that any three. Like I think her name's Xia Ling. I could be wrong. I think it's like Zaya Zhang or something like that.
yeah,
The ex NXT talent, her, Heather Reckless, and Savannah Evans, and even Tasha Steelz to an extent. All four of them could be players to some degree,
hmm,
but three of them have never really been tested, and I think Tasha Steelz has hit her peak, so who knows? Masha
yeah,
should be in line for a long feud, but I feel like she's going to be kind of given a rough go of it because there's not a lot of women going right now that she can have big matches with that could get you some attention. Maybe you can go and get Allison Kay back for a spell. Maybe you can sign some of
yeah,
these women that are leaving the NWA. Maybe you can get Janae Kai. If you get Janae Kai,
yeah.
do,
We always talk about this, and we feel like we come out with names that they could get, and then they go and get like but she just I think she's a free agent now. They go and pull
yeah,
Tegan Knox.
Tegan Knox would be fun for a spell, but I think of the women that you're thinking of, I think Indy Hartwell could be a lot. She is very charismatic. She's a solid athlete. I don't know if she's Tessa, Masha, Jordan, Grace, Gail, Kim levels of talent, but if you can get her to have a good match with Masha, you could justify taking the belt off of Masha. But the biggest part of the show had nothing to do with the women, had nothing to do with Masha or Tessa, or it did kind of have to do with Steph DeLander though. When she came out with the belt,
Yeah.
she debuted her real life husband, whom she's dubbing her boyfriend, in Mance Warner.
Oh,
Or
okay.
maybe
I
they're
didn't
just
know that.
dating. Maybe they're not married, but they are in together in real life. Mance Warner comes out and texts Sammy Callahan. Mance Warner is a huge deal on the Indies. Game Changer Wrestling was a part of MLW for a spell. He's a git. He's
Yeah.
charismatic. He's a hardcore wrestler. He's a great brawler. He's the kind of guy. He's like if you slammed Mark Briscoe and his craziness, Jay Briscoe and his aggression into a Mick Foley Raven esque brawler with a double dose of insanity, and that's Mance Warner. He's a lot of fun, and he's going to be very
Gotcha.
exciting. And he's picking a fight with Sammy Callahan, who, God, if there's anyone who can get anything out of Callahan right now, it's Mance Warner. So like, this was an unexpected and such a great get for TNA.
It's
Far
interesting. Yeah,
bigger get than Ariana Grace or who was the other girl, Cora Jade.
yeah, Cora Jade. They refuse that, and it's gonna be interesting seeing what other names they trickle in there. But they gonna Cora Jade is just somebody for Masha to face, so they can say, look, we're doing a partnership thing, but Cora Jade is not even the girl. Don't cook. They put her next to the young. I'm gonna say Deanna, but Roxanne Perez, who is far superior. That I would actually like to see uh come in there and see what she can do. But it's funny they got the same problem almost in uh Monster that they had in Jordan was like they got a really good problem, but they have nobody else on the roster to solve it.
No.
And and Tessa is a solid bad solve because while she has the level of talent to match a Grace or Masha, the crowd hates her. So which works for her as a heel, but it's like is it like we just don't like you like a Dominic Mysterio or like get the freak off my TV, the Nega Chan, like that whole deal. So it's you got to it's a weird thing. But it feels like Monsters kind of will have to keep that title for a while because I don't know if they can solve this issue right now.
Yeah, part of the issue is going to be finding women you can put with Masha because that was something that slowed down Jordan's run.
Yeah,
Unfortunately, I do think a big reason why Jordan Grace's run in 2024 wasn't as celebrated as it should have been is because she was dealing with a lot of mid-tier talent from NXT who had no business being in the ring with her. And I think you're going to have the same issue with Masha Savage. And I don't think Masha's as good of a worker as Jordan is. So, it's going to be even more of an intriguing thing to see play out because will this hinder Masha because she's going to get shoehorned into these really terrible gimmicks and feuds with people like Cora Jade. Cora Jade's not someone who should be dominating TNA's knockout scene, and yet here we are. That being said, though, I am excited to see where this goes. I have to watch this week's episode. Excuse me. I have to watch this week's episode sometime later tonight. We'll see how that goes. But yeah, I thought it was a good show, and I'm looking forward to more live Impact because it was a lot of fun. And I'm going to say this with all sincerity. If you can keep it to under 12 minutes and he doesn't embarrass himself in there, next live Impact, Joe Hendry versus JBL. It'll pop a rating. It's not something you should do long term. It shouldn't be Slammiversary. It shouldn't be Bound for Glory. But you talk about matches that you would want to do on a Saturday Night's Main Event, I think a TNA Live Impact is their equivalent of a Saturday Night's Main Event. I think a JBL versus Joe Hendry world title match where Joe Hendry beats JBL is the perfect kind of match that you would need for a live event, like a Live Impact. So just
yeah,
throwing it
they
out
got
there.
to. Yeah, I mean, to your point, they got to do something with that because he's been like, he's been the good guy, he's been the bad guy. You can't really tell, and there's only so much he's gonna be able to keep doing with the Nemesis. He should only be doing something with one of them because Nick's brother is literally like not even damn near the Timu version of him. So they got the that situation with JBL be cool, and just think of the videos that Joe could do about JBL,
Yeah.
particularly about like a Mexican ref, whatever that's going on right now.
I think the Nemesis should be a focus of the tag team division going forward. That being
Mm.
said, though, we're out of time. Marcus, any final thoughts on this week's show?
All thoughts, man. Just looking forward to any potential, I guess, surprises during the Rumble or whatever. It's funny being online with Grace saying she wasn't going to be there, because she has to go do her mom's birthday or whatever and show the plane ticket. That was interesting. Other than that, like you said, always just watch more wrestling. I don't know what all's going on in MLW right now. Um,
They just had a recent show. It was fine. The main event with
yeah,
Mystico is the highlight to watch, though.
gotcha,
So
gotcha. I know you got. I know you talked that. Is that Bloodsport one coming up?
they
Was that next
they
month?
had a single match on GCW's latest show. The next Bloodsport, I forget, it's in England. I don't know when it is
Yeah,
though, but that should be a lot of fun to see.
gotcha. So yeah, yeah, that's spot on. Like you said, we're both about to catch up with Impact after the show.
Hmm So be sure to check us out at the website, realnerdcorp.com, REALNERDCRP.com. We're on Twitter at NERDCRP. We're on Instagram. No, we're not. Marcus, you're on Twitter at Paradox Kid, PARADOXKID.
That's me.
You can also find him on his other podcast, The True Parenting Show, TruePennyShow. That's The True Parenting Show on Twitter. They're doing, who just announced? Is it Ricochet's going back to GLEAT?
Yeah, I want to say that's what they announced. Will be some interesting updates coming up with Gleek for us, though, by the way, because they've gone to a subscription based thing now.
Okay.
With their, I think, with their membership on YouTube. So
Should be interesting. So check out the True Parenting Show on Twitter. You can find me on Twitter at Chad Nerdcorp, CHEDNERDCORP, and on the Instagram at Chad's Photo at CHEDSPHOTOHUT. Tune in for another edition of the Wrestling Underground podcast next Tuesday at around 9 p.m. For Marcus Green, I'm Chad Porter. Thanks again for tuning in. Thanks for checking us out. Thanks for giving us a chance. Remember, as always, to watch more wrestling. And Marcus, take us home.
good night.